Pete,
Hey, Phil.
ah, what's up, man?
Hey there. Oh, well, we just finished our semester.
It's like I gotta let Joe know that you're here. How was the lessons in Carol last?
Oh, it went really well. It went really well. Even though we had kind of a hiccup in our preparations because our choir director quit somewhat abruptly. He was this, I don't know exactly why, but he was this new guy. And I mean, I'm new too, but he was as new as I. And
Mm.
for some unknown reason, he just left kind of in the midst of things. And so one of the other teachers took over the choir
Yeah,
and managed to pull it through really well.
I
So
was gonna say, aren't y'all kind of in a unique situation where you could do something like that, since all the students and faculty are kind of part of the Schola? There
right,
should be some sort of experience there, I guess. That
right. Although,
like
yeah,
it wouldn't be like totally kneecapping you if something like that were to happen.
right. Although we were fortunate in that one of the teachers does have some experience and skill in directing,
Hmm.
because that is kind of distinct, from just
Yeah,
following.
yeah.
But yeah, and you can also play, keyboard instruments, so
Mhm.
that helps.
I did know a conductor one time. He told me the joke though. He said, "Do you know what's really in that folder that's in front of me? People think it's the score for the entire orchestra. It really just says wave this baton around, and when the music stops, turn around and bow."
You'd think you could memorize that. Oh, that's good. Yeah. But
All right.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
y'all are done for the semester?
yes, that's right. Is your semester still going, or
No, we wrapped up. The last exam was yesterday. Yesterday was Friday, right?
it
Yeah.
supposedly
Okay.
was? Yeah.
Yesterday was Friday, so we wrapped up. That was
Yes.
our last exam. Most of the kids are gone. I think the last ones left today, earlier this afternoon.
Hmm.
Grades are due on Monday, and
Oh wow,
the
that's very
report
good.
cards and stuff will go out.
Due on Monday already. Wow. Phew.
Well, I mean, we got what, 10 students? It doesn't take that long to grade
Ah, fair enough. Fair
to
enough.
grade exams. And so I got the Old Testament took me the longest to grade because it was like essay and I'm actually having to read them. The logic exam was, I mean, that was easy to go through, right? Like this cat belongs in this category or it doesn't, and this proposition converts like this or it doesn't, and like you knew that or you didn't. So I was able to pop down that pretty quickly.
I see. I see. Very good. Yeah, we actually didn't have final exams in all our courses. We actually missed an extra week of school this semester. Um, we took off the week after Thanksgiving
Hmm.
due to some sicknesses among faculty and students. Uh,
Ah,
so what we actually decided to do is technically end the semester in January, actually at the end of it,
I got
because
you.
otherwise you'd have the first semester, is much shorter than the second.
I
Uh,
got you.
and it usually is shorter, but not by that much.
Yeah. All right. So y'all, I guess, yeah, you're technically not done, huh?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We have a break, and teachers could give final exams or not as they pleased.
I got you.
Now or in January, it's sort of free choice. So I gave a couple. I gave an oral exam, which was kind of new. Never tried that before. It
Yeah.
went pretty well. And then a written test, which I haven't looked at yet.
Very nice.
But
I used to give oral exams when I was teaching high school.
hmm,
The way they used to have it set out, they did exams three different ways during the time I was teaching high school. But when I first got there, they were still doing. So like by my second year, they moved it to this schedule where all of my students took the exam at once.
hmm,
So they were all in like five different classrooms, and I would just I would just kind of circle around and stuff like that. Well, but my first year, they had them take it at it was kind of like more like the collegiate schedule, just like the Monday, like A block,
Yeah.
you take your exam here, whatever. So I could see them individually. And at least for the students, the classes like so it was the seniors really that were subject to exemption. There was a while if I had enough students that were exempt, I only had like 5 or 6 taking the exam. I gave an oral exam, and I thought it worked pretty well actually. You could kind of,
Yeah.
listening to them talk, you could kind of then get a sense for how much they'd learned or how much they were able to incorporate and things like that.
Right. Yeah, I was a little curious how the oral would go, but I did definitely find, just how they spoke. I could easily tell, where they fell in the sort of gradation of knowledge, mastery. Pretty obvious.
Nice. Hold on, I was looking at a couple things. Yeah, so Julian should be on, and if he says if we go for about an hour, and I was like, I think we should. So he'll be able to join us. Joe should be on his way, but Alcibiades, he's on his own time.
Sure. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I didn't know. I think just to go back, what you were talking about the people being sick after Thanksgiving. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think you had said anything about that earlier. But I think Julian did say something. I think something was going on at where he is in Colorado. That they had a couple get sick, and so there was we should have online classes for a bit or whatever. So y'all didn't do anything like online. Y'all just took the week off.
No. Yeah. I'm glad that we didn't.
Yeah.
Well, we just set them. We gave them at-home assignments. Kind of caught up with those when we got back.
Nice.
But which I kind of prefer.
Good.
So it went well.
So what y'all been up to out there?
Oh, you mean aside from school?
Aside from school, you and Anna Marie, how y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing well. We've got some friends that we've made out here, which is very nice.
Yes.
So there's nothing quite like the Friday night,
Yeah, it's
but there are more families, and we have this sort of game night on Tuesday night. So you get together at this one family's house, and we play different games, and it's really fun. It's not really this sort of smoking and philosophical discussion kind of thing that I still want to find a way to do, but
we'll get you back in here regular. We're trying to do this a little more regularly.
I see.
So we'll get you back in it. Okay. Yeah, it's not the same. You're right. It's just not the same. Even with even with the people up here, right? And yeah, there's a lot of nice people up here and smart people up here, but it isn't the same.
No. It's also mixed, men and women.
There's that.
It just changes the character.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah. There needs to be more misogyny in the group.
That's right.
Oh goodness.
Well, it's because we, love them that we don't.
That's right. We don't want to subject them to this. Very good.
No. So, would you say your first semester went well?
I would say in general it did. There was a lot of learning. It was a big kind of learning curve. A lot of things for next semester, and then for next year.
Oh, a lot of learning for you.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I'm not talking about
learning your students did.
No, not that. No, not at all. Yeah, I meant for me.
Okay.
It was. Yeah. No, this really has. It's been interesting. It's been eye opening, and the paperwork is more than I would have ever thought possible. It reminds me why I always wanted to be a teacher and not an administrator. And then now doing both, it's like, this is fun.
You have both what you want and what you don't want.
That's right. Wonderful balance.
Hmm.
No, it's been pretty good. A couple of bumps, things like that, and
Sure.
things we thought that maybe would work aren't, turned out not to work so well, and then other things it's like trying to figure out how to get this to work, but it's coming along actually.
Hmm. Good.
Now the students have biology in January, and it's just an intensive. It was fun to watch the hope drain from their eyes when I told them that they were going to have like 3 hours of classroom instruction in biology every day of the week for all of January. It's like, well, I mean, I get it. Like that's a lot, but when you have 4 weeks to fit in a semester's worth of work, I mean, it's kind of like what we did. Did you ever teach the summer session?
No, no.
It's the same thing. I taught for like 4 hours a night for 4 weeks.
Ugh.
Like that's just, and yeah, the students were like, this is killing us. And it's like, I know, but you've got to read all this stuff. We're trying to like cram in a semester's worth of work into, there are probably things, that when you've got a tight schedule like that, you can focus more on some of the important things and leave out some of the lesser stuff.
Sure.
But
wow. So, and you have to do this compressed thing, or is this like a voluntary?
well, there's the way that they've set this up is that there is this January term. So we have the fall semester, there's a January term, and then the spring semester.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, apparently, it's I guess it's not that uncommon, but it's usually a voluntary
Interesting.
thing. Like even UST has some sort of like it's a 5 week intensive. They have a winter term, like
Oh, true.
but that's voluntary. It's not actually part of the structured school year.
Right.
So the thought was that we could either put a course that might take some more focus, like biology or something like that, or even another course if we wanted to, I don't know, try to do something new, change up the instruction a little bit, test something out, see if it works or whatever. That you could take this time, this kind of shortened version of a course, and work something out or try something new, or get them to just focus on that one thing. And the way it fell for this year is that's where they'll have biology.
So,
Of all the things you would focus on.
Interesting. So it wasn't because you could only get a teacher for January or something.
It was like this. Yeah, it was kind of scheduled this way before.
Okay.
All right.
Wow. Yeah, that's really. I've never run across that, but.
Yeah. Well, the hardest thing was finding a teacher, because anybody that's adjuncting is getting ready to start a spring semester mid-January. They're not like,
Yeah.
So we actually ended up finding, it was kind of interesting, but she's from England.
Oh.
I don't know where she speaks with a British accent, but I think her background, she's Indian or Pakistani, something like that. University, it was like Salisbury, something like that. Anyway, but her PhD she got in biology about 2 years ago or so. Actually, pretty highly. Her resume was impressive. Does a lot of work with like anti-malarial drugs and things like that. But she
like hydroxy, whatever.
Yeah. And so her and her husband and her newborn, she just had a baby, like her freshly moved over to the United States. And they're 20 minutes away. So they live, just the next town over. And she was looking to, since she had her kid in April or something like that. And she's kind of looking to get back into teaching. And she's like, I can do this for, 4 weeks. And we're like, yeah, perfect. That's.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm kind of, that seems pretty providential.
Yeah. So, and so that was good. So we got all that finally squared away just last week. That's how recent this was. Yeah.
Wow.
Course is starting on January 3rd, and we just got our professor squared away.
Good stuff.
Yeah. But what else has been interesting happening this last week or two?
Oh, yeah.
we've really been looking at, it's kind of been at my insistence. So we've been starting to now reach out with, so we're looking at really trying to completely integrate the program, right? To put that Aristotelian streak just through the whole thing. So I reached out. I think I told you about them a little while back. Do you remember the Sydney School of Mathematics? Or I think you might have told me. You might have told me about them.
That came up in a colloquium at UST.
Yeah, and so anyway, I reached out to them about helping us develop the mathematics curriculum, and I mean they got back to me like that. So we're in conversations with them, and then we reached out to Anthony Rizzi at the Institute for Advanced Physics.
Is he the physics for realists guy?
Yes, he's the physics for realists guy.
We actually use that in the Lyceum.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much, but I've read his book, The Science Before Science, and he seems to know his Aristotle and Thomas like pretty decently, at least, for a guy who's a physicist, an award-winning physicist at that, who discovers who discovers Aristotelian philosophy and is like, this kind of changes everything.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, so we're kind of looking into both of those things to kind of pull it into the rest of the curriculum. So I was like, man, this is great. It needs to got to get something going here.
Awesome. Is there someone named Franklin at the Sydney School?
Yeah, I forget his first. It's like his first initial is like J.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Franklin.
Dr. Franklin is he's like their head guy. He's the one when you look on their website, like most of the stuff that's published is from him.
I see.
And a handful of the other guys that are up there, but yeah, most of it's him. He seems to be like the leader. I was looking into getting that book. He has a philosophy of math, a realist philosophy of mathematics, but it's like $90.
Yeah. I found the same thing. I wanted to buy it, but then
yeah,
like the math of the budget doesn't really
So now I'm on a mission to see if I can't get a grant for our library for the college.
Yeah, what we need is budget for realists.
That's right. So yeah, whenever the city opens up its grant foundation, whatever, for the academic libraries, I'm going to put in a grant so we can get some of these books and keep them on hold, so I can read them.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, because even like Rizzi's books, like on the website, the Physics for Realists, it's still like $110.
Oof. Wow.
I think you can get used copies on Amazon for like in the 50s and stuff like that. But yeah, now all I need is somebody to write biology for realists. That's the one thing that's not out there.
I see.
Because I've been looking. That's kind of what's led me down some of this road. Is like, we need to actually start thinking more about this. And
right.
So.
Yeah, well, we have this new book, more on the high school level for biology, but it's I haven't looked at it too much, but it's put out by it's called Angelic Doctor Academy, I believe is the name of it. And it's started by my roommate at TAC's dad, who's trying to come up with these Catholic textbooks for homeschoolers, mainly. But yeah, apparently he found some biologist to write this book, and it sort of tries to teach it not in the the way of teaching it from the cell to that sort of reverse method that's often used. It's more of an Aristotelian approach.
I was looking. There's a number of books that I've found that are kind of so like. Got one. James Lennox has Aristotle's Philosophy of Biology, Studies in the Origins of Life Science. There was another one I was looking at. Oh, the Cambridge Companion to Aristotle's Biology. And a lot of those seem good, but they're not useful for actually like biology textbooks for like studying biology. So for the time being, it looks like if I could have my way, we would have whatever biology textbook plus one of those like manuals or work that the professor would would read up or study on and do their best to kind of to integrate the two. Now I know Kenneth Miller has a biology book. He's one of the like Catholic names, and he's kind of, so it's like him, Kenneth Miller, like Stephen Barr, all those guys that do the faith and science or religion and science. And I know Barr is a physicist, Miller's a biologist, and so he's got a high school biology book, but I don't know, the reviews I read on it weren't great, but then, the biggest complaint was that he endorses evolution, so everybody was like, nope, he's got to be out. And it's like, well, I don't know. I think when it comes to evolution, I think a lot of distinctions need to be made.
Right.
Especially if you're looking at it like, I don't know that I see a problem with it on a material level. I mean, we are animals after all.
Right.
On a formal aspect, yeah, then that's something else. But that requires a certain kind of discussion that most biologists aren't equipped to have.
Right.
So, I don't know. Do you think a lot about that kind of thing? The evolution question?
Yeah, I have on and off. And I guess I'm sort of in this middle position of the mechanism of microevolution is plausible. This change in DNA passing on, to future generations. And to me, there's sort of a philosophical puzzle of, if it should happen that through this kind of mutation, an offspring is more perfect than its parent, how do you exactly explain that? But I feel there would be some sort of explanation, because it just seems like we observe the mechanism at work in very small cases, and so that at least seems true. And then, but I'm also sympathetic to those who point out that, well, beyond that small scale evolution or micro evolution, there's this broader, man from apes or man from mud or whatever. And there it's, you're asked to imagine these cumulative small changes making these huge qualitative leaps. And, there's no, we don't observe all these intermediate forms. Anyway, it's kind of weird. I'm sort of caught in the middle, I guess.
No, I understand. Yeah, because I think I make those same distinctions. If anybody, when my students ever ask me about evolution, it's like, well, there is, like you called it, microevolution that we've actually seen. That's observable. The paradigm of evolution is just that, and the book that we're using it's Brooker, but it calls it, it's a hypothesis, it's a theory, there was one other phrase it used, but it was like, this is what we observe, and this is the kind of framework that we're using to try and explain what we're observing. But so microevolution we've seen, right? I mean, it's the beer bug virus and all of its variants, it's MRSA, and antibiotic resistant bacteria in hospitals and so on, like those, we've seen those sorts of things change. But I don't think, we were talking about this with our biology professor. She kind of said the same thing. But I don't think, like, that macro evolution, I don't think that's ever been observed.
Right. Well, it takes too long, I think.
Yeah.
For one thing, I mean.
Now, I don't know if Joe ever gets here, I can ask him, because he was the one I think brought this up. Now, I don't know if he read about this or if this was a hypothesis that he was spouting. Because it would be interesting, right? Like, let's say if you took like any sort of species of bird, and let's say you took a number of them out of the group and you put them on this island, secluded them by themselves for 100 years or so. And if after 100 years those resultant generations were unable to breed with each other, I think would be kind of interesting, right?
Right.
Because I think that's usually how they classify things that belong in the same species, is whether or not they can reproduce. So if you take things that are the same and you seclude them for, however many generations, if they're not able to interbreed after that time
Yeah.
period, yeah, I think that would be pretty interesting. Now, I don't know that that's ever been done. That kind of experiment's been done. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that giving you confidence that we've gotten one species and another species.
I don't know if that's what that would mean.
Okay.
But it would like, I guess what I was saying, like usually when you're like when I was looking in this textbook, that seems to be the kind of benchmark for separation of species is their ability to
Right.
to reproduce. I was like, okay. I mean, I don't know if that's a good benchmark. That's just the one that seems to be used. So the setup then would be then if you had something that was the same species, but then after so many years, so many successive generations of separation, if they're unable to reproduce, is that significant?
Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Yeah. Right.
And I don't remember the details of where you were around when Carl gave a colloquium at UST on this topic because he's on a grant right now.
I feel like maybe I was there. It sounds familiar.
You were around. I just don't know if you were present that day.
Okay.
Because yeah, he was. I don't know if it's done, if the research is done, because that was about a year or so back. But yeah, because he was with some other guy, a grant from CUA. They were working on that very topic.
Wow.
Yeah, because I just remember like all I remember from that colloquium is, of course, the language is there. I don't know that metaphysically the reality is there. I just because I don't know the topic well enough. But we talk about things containing forms virtually.
Right.
Like so, I mean so something regarding at least the language is there. I don't know what that would mean for you to virtually contain the form of a more perfect.
Yeah, I mean, well, a seed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you would say it. Would you say the seed actually contains the form of the whole plant, or
Yeah.
virtually?
I would say, I think virtually, just owing to the fact that the seed is not the full and mature plant.
Right.
Right. But I think what I see there is, but it's still of the same nature. Like this is the same kind of seed is going to grow into this kind of plant.
Right. So if you take form as nature,
yeah,
then it does have it actually, I guess. But if you take form as well, all the various perfections and characteristics,
mm-hmm.
then no, it obviously doesn't. It doesn't have leaves, it doesn't have roots, whatever. Yeah. So, right. Although, yeah, I wonder. That would be attributing kind of a great power to the first sort of unformed things that they virtually all subsequent forms, and then we that are kind of very late in the evolution are kind of, I don't know, we're somehow less. I don't know if we're less perfect, but we don't have that great. I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. There seems to be something to that, right? I mean, haven't we seen that? Like, I think it's almost demonstrable that like humans are getting less intelligent. And I'm not even saying that jokingly. I think even like measurably.
Interesting. Like over what time scale?
Yeah, well, yeah, this is
like from the 1800s or from the year zero or
yeah. Well, certainly we've gotten dumber from Eden after original sin, right?
Right.
That's true, but I don't know. When you look around, again, man, I wish I knew we were maybe going to end up talking about this. I've tried to look for something, but no, I use this just anecdotally, right? But I mean, if you've read like doctoral stuff from even 100 years ago, you used to have to be smart to become a professor, like, and to actually get a job teaching at a university. Like, you actually used to have to really know something, right? And nowadays they'll just let anybody do this. I'm walking proof. So
But at least you know that you're dumber. That's
Well, I can look and say, I don't think the general quality of scholarship today, look in any of the journals. I mean, even pull the same journal, pull the ACPQ's current edition and compare it to the ACPQ from, they're coming up on their 100th anniversary. So maybe 95 years ago, 90 years ago. Pull one of those editions. Pull them, put them side by side, and I mean, really see if the quality is the same. And I'm willing to put money that it's definitely not.
I actually like reading old articles because the way they're written is it's more sophisticated. It just seems better.
Yeah, and I think in almost every respect it is better. And then when you just look at society as a whole, right? I mean, the kind of general trope, more or less rightly, but that you had a more at least generally educated citizenry, even if not formally, but maybe not materially, but formally, a more generally educated citizenry in like earlier United States than certainly now, right?
Right. Though if you place it on education, it's not so much on genetics, I suppose.
Yeah. And if you even look at, I guess like the negative impact that stuff like the internet and printed books have had, right? I mean, you used to have to memorize the stuff that you read because you weren't ever going to see this papyrus scroll ever again, or whatever, right? But then with books that I can just keep up there on the shelf, I don't have to have it up here because I can go look it up. And then now I've just got it in my pocket. I don't need to know anything. I can just pull it up and ask the internet.
Right.
And I think, and that has a kind of cumulative and building effect on people.
Right. Yeah, I remember in the Phaedrus, Plato's Phaedrus, when I was reading that, I was kind of surprised by his criticizing, printed books, because nowadays it's, the internet's terrible, you should just read books.
That's right.
No, books are the corruption.
That's right. It all started to go downhill with books.
Yeah.
I had a theology professor say the same thing one time. He said, education went downhill with the printing press. It's like, it sounds really bizarre, but there's something to it.
Yeah.
So so I would be hard pressed to say that we're evolving upwards.
Right. Well, so kind of on that point, there was an interesting argument that so Mr. Nieto, you probably heard us talk about him from TAC.
Met him over the summer. I saw him at Clear Creek.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
He and I talked for a bit. It was great.
That's great. Yeah. He made this argument about the effect that recordings have had on music. And I believe he said something like, it's part of what drives people now to be sort of restlessly innovative, always coming up with something new, because the classics are just there. They're recorded. They'll always be there. We can always listen to them. So anyone doing anything new or anything now is like, I'm going to strike out on a new path. I'm going to do something completely different. Whereas when there was no recording, you just had to keep doing the classics over and over again, because otherwise they would disappear. And so, but now no one has to do that. And so it's sort of about, Bach, Beethoven, all those guys, they're on records,
That's really fascinating, actually. I was kind of, that's really fascinating. I think that is. So the idea that, since they're there, you don't have to keep doing them over and over again.
Right. I mean, they're always, anyone can listen to them when they want. So,
well, I wonder if a parallel argument can't be made for then, like, all of the reason why we're even getting dumber in like math and science is you don't have to make those discoveries anymore for yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm certain that's got to be part of it. Is the less demand for actually doing any kind of thinking on your own.
Yeah.
Means
like when we used to teach people, you had to take them through the mode of discovery, and you had to wrestle with all these things yourself.
Right.
And kind of come to the knowledge of a science. And now it's like you can just read it in the book. Oh, here's, Aristotle, act and potency. All right, let's move on to, modern philosophy now, right? Where we do something new, and it's like you don't actually have to wrestle with that anymore.
Right, right, right. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And if none of it were written down,
Yeah. And not to mention, too, to even think about these two at the same time, right? Not having to perform the classics over and over and over again, it doesn't form you as a musician. And that's probably why most new stuff sucks. Because they're not formed musically, because they
right,
didn't have to do it over and over and over again.
right, right. Sigh, sigh.
Well, but then again, back to, we look at contemporary scholarship. I wonder if you say a lot of that for even research today is you didn't have to do this repeatedly, kind of on your own. It was like, yeah, I read Aristotle once in undergrad, and now I'm into, now I'm into Spinoza or whatever, right? Or
Yeah, yeah. Right. That's sort
like,
of
yeah, and you're like, why? But it's because you didn't actually have to do any of this on your own.
mm, mm. Right, right. Well, yeah, and I feel like it's probably gotten easier to publish articles, and there are more journals, and so the general standard of stuff that is published with that goes down.
What was that one? I don't know if the number is real or not, but like 95% of most published research is wrong. And that's just in like the medical journals,
Oh boy.
much less,
Right, right. Oh boy. Yeah, in philosophy, it's probably a little higher than that.
Yeah, I still keep my collection of like the ACPQ and stuff when it comes out. I don't read too much of it though. Every so often there'll be something that interests me, but yeah, I think I'm with you. Some of the best stuff I'll find going back was like 1940 something, 1930 something, 1920, and you're like, man, this is great. This is good stuff here.
Yeah, why aren't we? Yeah. Still thinking like that. Sigh.
So you teach sixth graders, right?
No sixth graders for me. I'm on the upper end, so I'm doing 10th through 12th.
Who were those kids you were teaching when I came out to visit?
Those are 10th graders, sophomores.
Okay, wow. I could have sworn I saw little children. Like, I was like, man, like,
they are pretty.
I was like, Pete's got the 10-year-olds. Like, that's pretty awesome. Like,
they are pretty youthful. Although I don't think 10-year-olds could handle the St. Thomas that we were doing. Not that the 10th graders necessarily could entirely handle it either. However, they're at least closer than such would be. But no, that's the 10th grade class, and they're my favorite class actually. Interestingly, it's an all-girl class. Just kind of how it worked out.
That's interesting. Yeah.
But, they're all very bright and very enthusiastic, and it's really good.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've got them for a couple classes, and then I teach a class with 11th and 12th graders.
All right, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then the Latin the Latin, Greek, and math courses aren't done by grade. They're done by what level you are in those subjects. So if you're a 10th grader but you're ahead in Latin, you get in the advanced Latin, whatever it might be.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and they're all done at the same time, so everyone has Latin, first period all together.
Ah, okay.
In their separate rooms, and then so on and so forth.
It's one of the things I got used to teaching college was like the same time period, but I kind of missed that in high school. We had the rotating schedule. So it was always like change up a little bit, and it kept it interesting. I wasn't always doing the same thing at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
But then that also has its drawbacks, because then you have the class you really don't want to see last period of the day. And, there's that one day of the week when it just falls and there they are. And it's like, but
Yeah.
You know what really it impressed me, and it kind of burned me up just a little bit too, was how fast some of my students actually they got that logic problem.
Oh, the one that you were
Yep.
teaching on the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I mean,
oh, definitely. I said, look, I was impressed. It took me and a group of my friends about an hour and a half or so, kind of arguing about this.
That's funny. Wow.
So at first we thought the problem was here, and then we had to argue about that for half an hour, and it's like, nope, that's not real. And then it was this one. Nope, argued about that for 25 minutes, and then it's like, no, I think it's this one, and then we got to it.
We might have been faster if we were in person.
Well, this is true.
Could have avoided some of the.
Yeah, the texting and stuff. Yeah, and even when I'm trying, because I thought about that too while we were texting. I was like, if we were talking about this, it would be a little bit clearer.
Yeah, right. I definitely think so. Anyway.
But in the end, though, that was a good exercise.
It was, yeah.
But
interesting.
Yeah. Then have a bunch of freshmen just be like, "There's no way you didn't see that." And it's like, I'm not saying I didn't see it. I'm just saying,
I'm saying we considered it from all angles.
That's right. I'm just saying we saw other things first, and then we saw that. That was.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Pete, what have you been working on?
Oh, well, aside from my classes, I've been pondering the old dissertation topic.
Yep.
With somewhat unsatisfying results, in that I haven't really settled on anything. So I started thinking about a topic where I would investigate inertia and try and reconcile principle of inertial motion with Aristotle's definition.
That would be awesome.
Aristotle's account of motion. I'm interested in that.
That's a task. I would read that dissertation because that's a question I would really like to know about.
Yeah. So that's I've searched through the archives and come up with a bunch of articles on related subjects, and I've started reading a couple of them. So that's one thing. A sort of another totally different topic I was pondering the other day is something about more like a linguistic thesis, looking at some term that Aristotle uses or something, some word in the Greek. And I was actually kind of pondering, how Aristotle's ousia comes to be substantia or substance, and just is sort of verifying that that's a good translation, and understanding what differences there may be, if any, or something like that. I don't know. Just because I like language, and that's something I could do with that. So those two, and then I'm still in the back of my mind, I've still got this numbers thesis topic, writing about the definitions of different types of numbers. But that one has been it's been falling out of favor. I haven't really thought about it in a while. So yeah, the inertia one is the front runner for me right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why it's so hard to pick a topic, but
Pete's like, I'm thinking about so many things.
Well, yeah, it just feels kind of arbitrary picking one thing over another.
Of course it is.
I don't know which arbitrary choice to make.
This is just one of those hoops that they're making us jump through before they let us in the club.
Yeah,
that's all that this really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went through this. I went through a number of topics before I finally settled on this one. And then I don't know if I don't think I told you. I think I told Joe. No, I did put it. I put it in the group chat a couple weeks ago when Osborne took a big, massive steamer all over my all over the proposal that I sent. It was actually really helpful. and there's nothing I don't think, and I've gone back to it. I've actually been sitting with it for a while and going back through it and still thinking about it. And yeah, there's nothing that he brings up that I can't handle. So it was real, but it was really helpful in getting me to kind of like narrow the focus. So I was like this was actually good. But yeah, for somebody that told me when I asked him to direct, he's like, I've never read anything on this topic ever. The guy was like, why haven't you read these 20 things? And even in his remarks commented, he's like, there was a book published in 1857 that on page 638, the guy says, and then he's typing out this like quotation. I was like, dude, no, I'm not.
If that's how he is when he's never read anything, and he's kind of scared to, to a topic he does know about.
For somebody that said you didn't want to direct this because you didn't know the topic, you have an awful lot to say about this.
That's really funny.
Yeah. It was interesting. Most of the authors that he said that I needed to include, thankfully I knew about. He wasn't throwing anybody new at me, but it was my encounter with most of them has been through everybody else's thought. So I was like, well, I didn't put them because everybody uses them, Yeah. But I was like, all right, I get the point. I can definitely put all the original, the primary source in the bibliography. That's fine.
Right.
So, all right. Yeah, so I'll do a little bit of work on that over the break. I have an article that I want to finish up that I think it might actually be good enough to publish. We'll see. Talking about the lower quality of everything that's published, the fact that I can't get anything published probably speaks volumes. But no, I think this one might be able to make it. I don't know. We'll see. It was the paper I gave at ACPA. It was pretty well received there, so I was like, all right, maybe I'm onto something.
Nice.
And then when I get back, I'll work on my rebuttal to Osborne, or at least the defense of my proposal.
Right.
Although I haven't heard back from Oliva in a bunch. I haven't heard back from Carl at all. I know he's in his office. He's been sending out those emails about the maintenance on Sullivan and stuff like that. So it's like I know you're around.
Yeah, I had one email from him saying that we should have a meeting and talk about next steps in the program, and I said, okay, how about next week? But this was many months ago. That's what I've been thinking about. Some tactful way of reopening the subject.
Just email him back. So I'm available now.
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah, one of the things I want to hear back from him on, though, is regarding, we kind of got to talk about it a little bit at ACPA, but the guy was really busy, so I know he didn't remember it. That's why I had to email about him afterwards, because I want Sam Gregg to be the external reader for my dissertation. But so because he's not tenured at a university, Carl's kind of like, I don't think we can do that. And it's like, so I emailed him again, kind of like really making my case. It's like, the guy is a doctor of philosophy in this field from Oxford. He's an adjunct faculty and fellow at all of these research institutions. He's published, over 30 books, all of these articles, the director of research at the foremost institute on this topic in the United States, at the Acton Institute, and is a worldwide recognized authority on my topic. Like, I think I should be allowed to ask him to see if he'll be my external reader. Like, but he did say there might be something in their accreditation bylines or something that they just can't award the degree if it's not passed by somebody who's at a university. And it's like, well, and part of that, I'm curious now, given that a lot of universities are letting tenure go the way of the dodo. What's that going to do? There's going to be no tenured faculty,
Interesting.
So
right.
Even if you find somebody at a university, they're not going to be tenured because universities don't do that anymore. So
wow.
At least not often.
Yeah. Huh.
Did you see the new restrictions on Latin Mass today?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I actually had a topic I wanted to talk about. I wanted to see if when Joe got here, but let me see if I could pull it up because I'm sure you have thoughts on this, and I'm curious. Let's see. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Peter Kwasniewski published this on 1 Peter 5. I think it was earlier today, something like that. So there's like there's like those two camps right now about so you've got Kwasniewski and guys like Tim Flanders and some of those guys like them that are like, well, Francis has no authority to do this, like this is ultra vires and blah blah blah. And then on the other side you've got guys like Michael Lofton or Timothy Gordon, that are like, well, this is entirely within Francis's authority to do that, and this is something that we just have to suffer or whatever. And this is one of those things I think I've said. I don't know if I've talked to you about it. Like I'm really afraid that guys like Lofton and Gordon are correct on this. I wish that they were not. I really wish that they were not. But I really think that they are. And anyway, yeah. But I've been trying to think about the argument then, like in what way could this be considered ultra vires or something beyond the Holy Father's authority to deal with something like that? And I think in this, and Kwasniewski's never really like published like his reasoning explicitly on this. He I think he just assumes it for the most part. But this seems to be the most concise and kind of principled argument for why he thinks this, right? And so I just kind of highlighted it about that the notion of authority arises from the need to promote and safeguard the common good, and that the common good then limits the legitimate exercise of authority. So if an authority acts manifestly against the common good, the action or command or ruling has no legal standing.
Right.
And but it kind of seems like it might follow from that then that it wouldn't be possible for the Pope to abuse his authority. That either then what he does is in accordance with the common good and we obey him, or it's against the common good, and in which case it has no standing at all, and we can just do, we are free to disobey him. And it seems like it would follow then that he could never do anything
right,
like that would constitute an actual abuse of his authority, where you would have to obey, but while it would be wrong for him to do such a thing, you would have to obey it. And this position seems to exclude that.
Which would be strange.
Yeah.
The only pope then could be a good pope, basically.
That's that's how it seems like to me, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it with you guys. I don't know if I'm thinking about it right.
Right. To me, it would seem like he comes out with something saying you have to sacrifice your child or something. Then I would definitely see this.
Yeah. Right.
As being the case, but right, to say that he is not allowing us to have something wonderful and good and maybe even necessary in some ways, or I don't know, it depends on how far you could go with that, but can you place that on the same level as ordering you to do something evil or right, something like that, or like telling you to starve yourself, not have any food at all. Right. When you outline those two positions, I guess the second one is the one I'm more aligned with.
So I think because it seems to clearly fall within the realm of the Holy Father's authority to modify the sacred liturgy.
Right.
At least insofar as it's a disciplinary thing, right? Now, insofar as the liturgy is an expression of faith, then it seems there are some things that are untouchable. The problem is, like Tim Gordon says, then you need to point out then what specifically here is untouchable, right?
Right.
And in history, right, this has been like the prayers at the foot of the altar have not always, like those are a relatively late addition. That's like a 9th or 10th century thing. The last gospel is of like a 14th century thing. Even some of the other, Pope Gregory the Great modified the Roman canon himself. I think he shortened it a little bit. So you've got all of these, it's like, in other words, all of these things have been done.
Right.
And now you just want to say, well, like it's just historically developed into this version, and now the Holy Father has no authority to do anything to it. It's like that doesn't follow.
Right. It has reached its perfect stage of evolution.
Yeah.
Or as possible.
Now that's something. Now, like even if you were to use that line of argument, which I'm actually very sympathetic to, right? If you think of the liturgy as this sort of like tree, this great plant that's been growing, and now it is fully flowered. It's like it does, like you say, it's this full, it's beautiful kind of expression of the Catholic faith, and it's wonderful. The guy that still has the guy that has custody of the garden, like he can go out and butcher all of his well manicured topiary, and you might be like, that's a stupid thing to do, and why would you do that? But the guy that's got custody of the garden has every right to do that.
Yep.
It might be a horrible thing for him to do, and he might even, sin by doing it. But I don't know that means he couldn't have.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess what I've been trying to, because I've brought this up too, right? And people talk about, well, the Holy Father has like plenary authority, and this is right when it's understood properly. But okay, when you ask them about, okay, what does that mean? And it seems like that, you should always ask, what is this authority for, right? He doesn't the Pope doesn't just have this authority because he has authority. He has this authority because it's his job to safeguard and to transmit the faith.
Right.
And so it seems like that places some kind of limit on him, but I don't know if, like, butchering the liturgy, I don't know that is excluded by that. I don't know.
Right, but it seems similar. It's more or less the same as the case with law, right? If law is against the common good, it's not really a law. But at the same time, the nature of authority or law requires a certain stability and a certain sort of ability to assume that you have to do what it says unless it's totally wrong. Because, if you open up this avenue where anything that you find questionable or seems a little bad or ill-judged, you can just ignore. That destroys, you might as well not even have authority anymore, because you just have each person judging for himself that
that's Protestantism.
Right. So it's kind of like, it's not enough just to say this is a bad decision.
Yeah. I wonder if, so you brought up something interesting just now when you talk about the comparison with law, I wonder, right? It does seem on the definition of law, right? There can be no such thing as a bad law.
Right. Not as Aquinas and Augustine understand it. Or would speak about it. Right. Well, no, they would say, no, I think they would admit there could be a bad law. It might depend on what you meant, but I think Augustine's phrase is something like an unjust law.
Yeah. So if it's as Kwasniewski describes here, like if it's a law or something like that is manifestly against the common good, then it might have, like Thomas uses the phrase, it has the force of law because it's backed by the sovereign.
Right.
But it doesn't have the ratio of law.
Right.
But I don't know if that applies here.
Well, it's
like, could this be something then that is an illegitimate exercise of the Holy Father's authority, but it just has the force of the Holy Father's authority?
Well, and what would force mean? Does that mean like you would incur these ecclesiastical penalties if you disobey it?
I guess it would seem like that. Yeah, it seems like it. Then it's still, and even Thomas says that about an unjust law. If it doesn't command you to do something evil, if it still has the force of the sovereign, the will of the sovereign behind it, then you kind of have to obey it. which I always thought was interesting. But
Yeah. So, but now you're kind of inclining me to think about a secular parallel, something like the king makes a law that no one may play Mozart or Bach, and do you say, well, that's, I mean, yes, clearly that's bad that he would do that. It's depriving us all of great beauty, and but can I, justify myself in breaking the law, you know, publicly and
yeah,
sort of inviting that kind of law breaking? I don't know. Well, with that kind of law, I might do it,
that's right.
but but
I
yeah,
can, yeah.
something like that, like taking away this great good,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just sort of incomprehensibly. Um, then how do you view that? Yes, it's clearly not promoting the common good, and it's probably hurting it, almost certainly, but it's not making you do anything evil. Yeah,
Is and like, so again, like Kwasniewski's point here is that then is if it, the very fact then that they could, I guess that he says, so manifestly against the common good, and even as you said, very probably against the common good. He seems to take that as being enough. And I think if I, scroll down a little bit further, because he's got, so he comes back, these guys like Cajetan, resist to his face a pope who is openly tearing the church apart. De Vittoria, if the pope by his orders and acts destroys the church, resist him, impede the execution of his commands. Bellarmine, I think, is most well known. As it is lawful to resist the pope if he assaulted a man's person, it is lawful to resist him if he assaulted souls. Right? It is lawful, I say, to resist him by not doing what he commands. So by not doing what he commands and hindering the execution of his will. Suarez, I don't know if that's questionable, right? If the Pope lays down an order contrary to right customs, you don't have to obey him.
Right customs. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'd wonder what the Latin says there.
Yeah.
There's no footnotes there's no references from any of these quotes, but I think he gives them. There was another article he published a month or so back where I think he went through a lot of these guys, and I think he gave citations then, but I don't know. I think maybe I try to think about it through the lens of or like using the law example, just maybe because that's a little more known. And so it might help me to think through the example at least.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'm really not sure what's going to come of this. This doesn't seem, it's definitely not awesome.
No, indeed.
You know what I find interesting? This didn't occur to me when I was talking to him, but there was a priest I was talking to recently about the college, and he asked, what are we going to do if almost something like this happens, right? What if Francis tries to say that you just can't have this period when this is like the whole spirituality we've built the college around? And he's like, well, would you guys go Sede and all this other crap? And it's like, well, what I didn't think to ask him then, it occurred to me afterwards, but there's an interesting, this same priest has, said that, of course he thinks Francis is a terrible pope, questions his teaching in like encyclical letters, Laudato Si, which is an actual exercise of the Holy Father's magisterium, what was, the other one, Amoris Laetitia,
Right.
And a whole bunch, and a number of other of Francis's apostolic letters, things like that. And so he's always like, well, no, Francis can't teach this. He can't do that. He can't do this. But then when it comes to this, they're like, you just have to unquestionably obey everything that he's doing. And I'm like, I don't know that I see a principle of distinction here.
Interesting.
Like if you want to hold doctrinally, and I think most Catholics at this point do, they have some reservations about some of Francis's teachings. And if that's the case, you can certainly have reservations about his disciplinary actions. I would think, yeah. Or the same thing, like the teaching on the death penalty, and you've got that raises a lot of problems with people. And it's like, well, if you can question something he's actually teaching, I think I can question
Although,
some sort of disciplinary action.
right, although there's a difference that teaching is true or false, but practical measures are, not true or false, but they may be helpful or unhelpful.
Yeah, prudent or imprudent, perhaps.
Right, prudent or imprudent. So I could see someone saying, well, yeah, he's teaching something false, but this is just a bad decision, and it's not false. It's just awful.
But if it's a known imprudent decision, wouldn't it be imprudent of me to follow it?
Well, but you're not just considering the action; you're considering you being commanded to do the action by your authority.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be imprudent in the same way. It would be something like, well, yes, I know it's imprudent, but there's also an imprudence in disobeying the authority, sort of taken in itself, or there's risks associated with that. So you'd have to balance the two.
Yeah.
And sort of say, this is sufficiently important that it merits resisting that authority.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's because right, you're not bound to obey your superior in all things. There are certain grounds where even if he commands you to do something, you can disobey. Usually we talk about if it's like commanding to do an evil or something like that.
Right.
And I don't know, at least on some of these guys, I think they would want to say, if they haven't actually used the words, maybe the intent is there that this maybe is an evil. Certainly. Well, I guess they would phrase it like this, right? Certainly, the fact that he is using his authority to so brazenly overthrow something his immediate predecessor has done kind of undermines papal authority itself. That it's kind of there's like a fomentation of division within the church that he's using his authority to do, and so that's and I guess they would point to that, and I think a handful of other things, but that this is then like that level of harm to the body of the church, and so it should be resisted because that is an evil.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would think they would say that.
I mean, I've seen enough of their Facebook posts and some of their other, at 1 Peter 5 and other places like that they've used those arguments or those similar arguments. And the guys on the other side just come down on the legality. Like, this is either a matter of discipline, and the Holy Father can do this, however terribly, or not. And I don't want them to be right. I'm just afraid that they are.
Have the people advocating this kind of resistance shown or indicated what practical shape it takes, or like has that been practiced anywhere?
So let me see. I can pull this up.
Are there any parishes sort of?
Yeah, there was something actually it was just a couple days ago about that. Let's see. Here it was, I think. I want to, stop that. I want to share. Let's see. I think this one. So a couple of days ago, Eric Sammons, on the 13th, about this question, can we recognize and resist? And he actually then he's quoting this bishop about this, in a filial and obedient spirit, I disobey.
That's really funny. Yeah.
But so it was, and he actually goes through the whole history of the thing. Let's see. I know it was somewhere in here, right? So Robert Grosseteste, 13th century bishop of Lincoln, England. All right, so in 1253, Pope Innocent IV ordered that a vacant canonry be given to his nephew. Bishop Grosseteste refused. He wrote a long letter to the nuncio explaining his decision, in which he stated, "It's well known I'm ready to obey and all devotion with and reverence, but to those things which are opposed to apostolical commands, I in my zeal for the honor of my parent right am also opposed. And so filialiter et obedienter non obedio contradico et rebello."
That's such an interesting quote. Obedienter non obedio.
Yep.
And then contradict, and he sticks in rebello too, which is really strong.
That does have a very strong connotation to it.
I wage war almost against. Well.
So he goes through. Then there are a couple of other, 10th century Archbishop of Canterbury, Saint Dunstan, who excommunicated somebody.
And then the Pope tried to lift it, but he said,
absolutely not. So he said, recognizing the Pope's authority, but resisted an illegitimate exercise.
That's really interesting.
So there are historical examples.
Now that actually, if we could, agree that he was right to do that, that is fairly parallel. Like, yes, I'm saying in general, this is the kind of thing the Pope could do, but I know that he's doing, as far as anyone can know, he's doing it for the wrong reasons, and it's bad.
Yeah.
So I'm just not going to ignore it.
And so this is one of those things too that, like, in the long history of the Catholic faith, this is why I've seen this phrase. We talk about the spirit of Vatican II and all this other stuff. I've seen more recently now this kind of, they call it the spirit of Vatican I. This hyper papalization that just really didn't. It's not really part of the historical exercise of the faith. I mean, really, how many 10th century faithful, went through their lives where they didn't even know who the Pope was.
Right.
It's like, is the Pope still Urban? And no, we moved on to Gregory now. And when did that happen? That was a couple years ago, but whatever. Yeah. Right. It wasn't and you didn't hang on the Pope's nobody cared what the Pope said on a Wednesday afternoon off a balcony, something like that. That didn't even enter into anybody's thought.
Right. Yeah, unless he placed your whole country under an interdict or something, but
yeah, right. And even then, it took a few months for the word to get out.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So there does seem to have been then, especially starting in the late 19th century, you did have this just hyper kind of, centralization, this in papal power that just didn't seem to be, so I've always found this kind of interesting. Like, when you go through all of Thomas's works, I don't think he ever cites the reigning Pope.
Interesting.
He always goes back to, he'll talk about Pope Gregory, Pope Leo, like the guys from early on, and the church fathers. That's who he, it's the scripture, the fathers.
Right.
That's who he kind of relies on. I don't think even once he cites as an authority the reigning pontiff. I think he mentions him once or twice when he's like, I'm writing this book because he asked me to, but that's it. Right. He certainly doesn't ever appeal to him like as the one who settles the issue. Not that Thomas would deny that the Holy Father has the authority to settle theological issues, but it just, I don't know. He just doesn't speak that way. He doesn't refer to the reigning pontiff when he's giving argument.
Right. Not like people writing articles now are always saying, well, as Pope Francis says, or as
well, it really is expressed that way. They're like, who cares what Benedict taught? Like, now Francis is teaching this. It's like a flavor of the day sort of thing.
In and out with the old and with the new.
Yeah, but that is contrary to a Catholic spirit, I think.
Oh yeah.
If I'm required to toss out, what John Paul thought when Benedict became Pope, and now I have to let that go when Francis becomes Pope, and if I have to let this go when the next guy becomes Pope, then what do you have left?
Right. Yeah, it becomes the sort of personal whims of one person. Well, I wonder too if now in America has it been the case that sort of more focus and power has been placed on the person of the president.
Yeah.
Whereas, in the beginning, you would hardly have much contact, or like get you wouldn't hear much from the president. You were just living in somewhere in Virginia or something,
Yeah.
and you just have your governor and your mayor and all those
One of
things.
the things, yeah, when you look at the Constitution, it's amazing constitutionally just how little authority the president has. Now I think I forget the exact dates, but it was like early 20th century or something like that, right? There were a number of enactments like where Congress did hand over a lot of their authority to the president, and yeah, but it was the same thing. We had this kind of centralization in presidential power, and of course, some of that authority was just never given back. And now we do. We kind of treat the president like it's the be all end all of, like that's the only election people pay any sort of attention to.
Right.
It's just every 4 years is who's going to be the president. Like the whole trajectory of the country depends just on that. Like the people that actually make the laws have nothing to do with it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. More. It seems like the theme of today is the decline of modern times. Everything's going downhill.
That's true, but it's also it's part of the theme then of that centralization of power.
Right.
Whether it's the presidency or the papacy, or this seems to be going hand in hand. And I guess now there are certain schools of thought, like the libertarians would be like, "Why are you surprised at this?" But I wonder if they're not onto something, at least in the respect that, the more you tend to centralize authority, at least statistically, the more incompetently things are going to be done.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. It certainly has the capacity for that, although.
Yeah. Like it's not a necessity, but it just tends to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Would you mind if I got a refill real quick?
Oh, go ahead. I should actually grab some scotch, which was a gift from the headmaster after our concert.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Why did you pick up the BCP? Have you ever had Dalwhinnie?
No.
I'd never had it before either.
Yeah, that's not one I don't even think I've seen that before. Highland single malt. Ooh, 15 year.
Yeah.
That's Dalwhinnie. No,
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah. It claims to be from the highest distillery in Scotland.
Like, like in terms of elevation, or
Right. Right. Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, somewhere in the mountains. Whereas I think like Lafroig and something else come from this island called Islay.
I know Easley Scotch. Although I have to say, I don't know. I don't know what you think of it, but to me, Lafroig is disgusting. I don't like it.
Better than that, I like Lagavulin, which I think is also from there.
Okay.
But what I like about this is, at least the first that I had was very kind of mellow. It didn't have some of those unpleasant notes.
Well, that was the thing I don't like about Lafroig, is that it smells like feet, and it tastes even worse. It really, actually, I mean, like Lafroig, actually, what it is it's just extra peaty. I think it's really,
yeah,
it's
right.
really pungent.
Right.
Now,
But
Macallan is my brand, but Glenfiddich is actually pretty good. That's my buddy drinks that, so I drink that when I'm with him. But I'll have to keep an eye out for Dalwhinnie. My liquor stores here, dude. You should see this. This sucks up here. I've not been. First of all, there's not a Total Wine around. And when I did go to Total Wine, it's just wine. They're not allowed to sell liquor. You have to go to the special. You have to go to an actual liquor store. Except the liquor stores suck. They just don't have they don't have any sort of selection. It's oh, here he is.
What's up, boys?
Jake.
Hey, Jake.
What's up, man?
How you guys doing?
Here we go. Doing all right. How you doing? Where are you?
I'm at the airport. I'm flying out to. I'm getting on a plane to DC in a few minutes.
Oh, dude. Well, if you're in the neighborhood for a couple days, let me know. I'll be here till Wednesday.
You're they're okay. Well, then we got to get together. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to. My fiance's getting some beverages, but
nice.
we're gonna be there till
Toast.
Till the 30th. So, and I know that I've got friends from in the DC area who are meeting with us. So we should definitely, we can all meet.
Okay. Yeah, if I'm around, I got a couple things doing. Like I'm doing stuff Monday, Tuesday, but I'll be around, so I might be able to.
Yeah, maybe if you get off work or something.
Yeah, I'm off work. It's just like chores and stuff because I'm leaving on Wednesday, so it's
All right. Well, if you get chores done Monday during the day, then
let me know.
Get your ass to Olney or something.
Nice.
I think you're only 30 minutes out.
Yeah, it's not
30 or 40 minutes.
Let's see. What's the place called? The town?
Olney. Olney.
Olney. Oh yeah, just what about it? It's about an hour. Yeah, it's about an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Congrats on the engagement.
Thank you. Yeah, yes. Very pumped.
If I'd have known you were going to be joining in, though, I would have grabbed my scotch. Pete's got scotch. I would have had some scotch.
Yeah, well,
it seems inappropriate.
I would also be grabbing scotch.
It seems inappropriate to toast with a rum and Coke, but
that's all right.
Yeah, there's a duty-free shop at the airport, isn't there?
Yeah, I already just paid an arm and a leg for pizza.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I don't need to pay. I don't need to take out a bank loan to get a finger of scotch.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So, what you been up to? What's it like teaching out? And this is what, your second year, right?
Yeah. It's great, dude. I do love that school very much.
I got to work harder to get in touch with them. I never followed up. They never got back to me, and I never followed up. So it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you should push harder because if my boss didn't even ask me about it, then I'm not even sure if it got on his radar.
Yeah, and that might not have mine.
But like I didn't even have the chance to fight for you because it never even came up. So
Yeah, I was trying to see if I could fit in a visit out there, but
you should.
I want to. I was just trying to. I was kind of looking to see if there was somewhere else in the vicinity, and it didn't look like there was. So it would just be a trip out there, like just for there. And not that I'm unwilling to do that, but
there's St. Mary's too, which is a good decent Catholic school.
Okay.
And then there are the Great Heart schools, which aren't Catholic, but have a lot of kids who end up going to Newman schools, everything like that. So you could, and yeah, I'm sure many of the headmasters would take you up with open arms and everything. So
I've gotten a pretty decent reception everywhere I've gone. Like I went out to visit Pete a couple months ago, October, something like that. I had a great reception out there. I went and saw Evan, went and saw a couple other places, and great reception everywhere I've been.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Just trying to convert it into actual students.
Yeah.
So. Have you defended your proposal yet?
It's done, just not defended.
Not defended. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if that had happened yet. I'm working on my revisions for Osborne. After he took a big, massive steamer all over it. It was great. It was actually quite helpful, but it's just stuff I gotta do. Yeah. You working on anything interesting?
Getting married.
I mean, yeah, that's, I was talking about important stuff,
No.
Gotcha.
My friends from Houston.
We've never actually met.
Yeah.
She can't hear. You're in the headphones.
That's true.
It's all right.
She's not just some made up thing from Canada.
I'm glad to see that you're real. Yeah.
Wait, how come?
Can you still hear? Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can. Now I can hear you.
Hello.
All right. Howdy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So there's Phil Burns, and that's
Phil.
Peter Gardner. Christine.
Glad to see that you're real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So where are you guys?
I'm in Maryland. I'm actually about an hour away from where Jake said y'all will be.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the name of your town, Phil?
Hagerstown.
Oh, Hagerstown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of that western the neck, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. The friends from grad school. Pete also went to TAC. I think if he would know anybody that he knows, I'm not sure. Yeah.
We're in Chicago.
Yeah, we're boarding in a hot minute here, but.
Oh, okay. So y'all have left Phoenix. Y'all are in Chicago. Where are y'all in Chicago? Y'all are at Midway? Okay.
Yeah.
I always hate going through Midway. I much prefer O'Hare just because it's huge. I like O'Hare. Plus, there's a Pizzeria Uno in O'Hare, and there is not one at Midway.
There's a good pizza spot. Midway.
Well, there's the one in the food court.
Long concourse pizza restaurant. What's it called? Home Run Inn. Yeah, Home Run Chicago or something.
Yeah, it's the one that's in the food court, right?
Yeah.
That's where I usually go.
It's like
it's not in the
right.
food
Well,
court.
sorry,
It's
in the gate area actually. It's
okay. Then no, maybe I don't know that one. Because I know there's one in the food court area, and that's where I usually stop off at Midway. But so. Pete and I were talking earlier about evolution, and then we were actually just talking about the new restrictions on the Latin Mass and the nature of law.
Oh yeah. I just read that today. I was telling Christine about that, but I hadn't read a ton. I don't have a ton of details. I just saw some quick hits on it. So
I mean, right now, just because it was published, I guess yesterday morning, Rome time. It's just everybody's just first reactions.
Right.
It does seem no bueno though, but
no. it's hard to get in. Just cruel. It just strikes me as cruel. So,
The question is it lawful? Like, is it something that has to be obeyed?
That's what I was saying. I'm like, well, is that just kind of like this is what we want, but it's not binding? Or...
This is what, in thinking, we were looking at something earlier from Kwasniewski. I had it pulled up, but it's like there are those two camps. You got Tim Gordon like on this side, you got Kwasniewski on the other side, and I'm still afraid that this is something we have to obey. I think that that's right.
But did you see that thing about the reception theory of law?
Yeah.
Cardinal
Mueller and
I saw that Father Z was talking about that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of merit to that, because it's on what is this platform?
Oh, we're on StreamYards. We're on my Twitch channel.
Okay, StreamYard by Twitch.
Yeah, this actually came up recently. I don't know. I'll try to tell. Long story short, I was watching one of the other like YouTube channels I watched the other day, a couple weeks ago now, and they had this rapper on who had his song pulled from because it was like the #1 iTunes download. It was "Let's Go Brandon."
Oh yeah.
But then they had him on the show, but they were just talking about how the left has they have the monopoly on media and entertainment. And that there's an importance for, however small, just good content creation. It just needs to be out there, right? And I was like, fine, we could do this online. We could have some good philosophy on the internet. It might be in the back of the room, in a corner, like behind some cabinets and stuff. But at least it'll be there. So that was kind of the idea.
We can do it.
Pete heard me. They didn't hear me.
I heard you too. It's just when the topics are a little sensitive. I gotta. Well, we did. You were there. That was you, right? When we offended that guy over the Chick-fil-A. Remember, we were headed up to ACPA, I think. Oh Julian. Yeah.
And the guy, yeah. And that guy got all offended. He some dude was sitting there, and Julian got into whatever city this was before we did. So Jake and I show up, and Julian's got his bag of Chick-fil-A, and it had just been like the day before. Chick-fil-A announced that they had caved in, that they were going to stop donating to like the Salvation Army, a handful of these other places because of their anti-homophobia or whatnot. And so Jake and I were ragging on Julian just a little bit about, don't you know Chick-fil-A sold out, blah, blah, blah. And so this guy who was like sitting right there, he gets all up, offended and stuff about how it's like, don't you know that like Chick-fil-A like is homophobic and they donate to homophobic agencies? And I was like, yeah, like the Society for Christian Athletes and stuff like that. And, and he ended up just getting up and he walked to the other side of the terminal. So yeah, we're not unaccustomed to offending people at airports, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there was the lady. There was the other lady that Jake got into. You didn't get into it with her, but it was just funny. She was talking about how she was Jewish. She heard us talking about like our conference papers and stuff. We were headed to San Diego, and she heard us talking, and so she gets to talking to us about, but that she's not really religious, but she's Jewish. She's like, I'm not really that religious. Like I believe in the 10 Commandments, like, but I don't really believe in God or like any of this other stuff. And Jake just goes, so you believe in like the 7 Commandments? Like,
Just 7.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I don't believe in God or any of that other stuff. It's like, so the first 3 of the 10 Commandments, like,
Someone's named them.
I was definitely pulling my like little bastard card out for a little second. Second.
But it was great though. So.
Wow.
I did get myself an ugly Christmas sweater.
It was a definitely memorable mine.
Oh yeah, I remember it. So.
Yeah.
So I did get
That's
myself.
the kind of story I'll be telling I'll be telling friends for years.
Yeah, I'm going to tell that story at y'all's wedding. No, I did get myself an ugly Christmas sweater. It has all the lights and everything. It says "Let's go, Brandon." So I have to be. I have to
that's why I
decide where I'm
plugged in.
going to. Yeah, I'm going to have to decide where I want to
That's why.
wear that in public. I figured that. I saw as soon as I said that, I saw you reaching for the headphones. I was like, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. 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 What the heck?
Are y'all having? What's the weather like in Chicago?
It's
Currently
fine.
37.
It's
but
clear.
we're inside.
It's clear. No snow. Nothing. Just I don't know why we're not moving.
Flight's not delayed or anything, huh?
Hopefully we make up some time. It is. I mean, our plane's right there. Sorry. Our plane's right there. And everybody's off. I just don't know what's taking so
odd.
long. Why we can't board yet?
Yeah, that is odd. But
I feel bad because her parents are picking us up from the airport, and there'll be midnight.
Late.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'll drive home.
Yeah, it's about 9:40 right now. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so we were trying to think our way through maybe a more known example of like of human law, just to maybe help illuminate the example.
We're at
But,
day B20. We'll probably start boarding here in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh.
But yeah, the theory of reception is kind of interesting. That was something that was developed, I think, after Thomas's time.
What's the theory of reception?
So I wonder maybe if I can pull that up. Let's see. But it was like that a law has to be received in order to be considered valid.
And there's different kinds of conditions for that kind of sort of thing. You can't have any natural laws. Laws that are directly contained under the natural law aren't subject to the reception theory because they're just universally binding. But Father Z had this thing where he was showing
I'm trying to pull that
examples of reception theories in the past, and how a decree would come down. It wasn't the right time. It wasn't the right thing. Absolutely, and then people just ignored it, and then because of the universal rejection of the whole thing, instead of the universal reception, the law was kind of considered to be post fact void.
Interesting.
That's the
So, but I guess you have to say that the people who are
I hadn't heard of anything like. But I do.
All right, Washington, D.C. will probably start boarding in the next 10, 15 minutes. Probably sooner than that. So what we do, we start with pre-boarders, sending out unaccompanied minors. Then we'll do
here we go.
boarding A, B, and C groups of 30 numeric
Let's see if I
order.
can.
After the A group, A list preferred extra time passengers are active military and in uniform with ID. Family boarding is
that's,
2 adults and kids under the ages of 6. This is not a full flight, so please.
In general, that a law, in order to be binding, must be received by the community for which it's intended. It doesn't apply to moral law because it flows from the above reception and rejection by here. So if it's just something like that's a human law, it has to be accepted by the community for which it's intended.
Customer service, wait in there.
Yeah.
And get your bag checked to your final
so some of the examples, so some of the later breviary reforms or anything like that really were just universally rejected by the church. They just didn't use that breviary ever. They hated it, so it just went back later. Okay, I guess we'll use the previous version. So that seems to be interesting then regarding like the original
Finish
motu
any
proprio
alcoholic
for
beverages
Ediciones
out
Custodes.
at
It's
the
like
gate
right from the
area.
beginning, certain
Yeah.
bishops were just kind of like, I'm
Massachusetts
not going to do
Southwest,
this in
and
my
we'll get you out of here as
diocese.
soon as we can.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the development of this idea. Like again, I think it was developed after St. Thomas. Like Thomas doesn't talk about this at all. I don't think in the treatise on law.
Yeah, I don't see
Uh,
Thomas mention it at
Eight
all.
but
through B, 1 through
it
30
seems to
towards
be
the
like a
concourse,
later, like
31 through
kind of
60
Salamancan
against the
development.
window, numeric order by the
Like I
pillars.
think
My
Suarez
pre-borders
and
are all
Vittoria,
underneath the
those guys might
southwest
have
sign
touched
on the
on
side of
something
us.
like
We'll
this.
get
So
you boarded
I'm
as
not
soon as
actually
we
that
can.
familiar with it.
Really?
Is it sort of a conflict between custom and law, and custom having the upper hand? Maybe. I'm just some
Yeah.
St. Thomas does talk about custom, and if the law attempts to
I
oppose custom, but custom just sort of overpowers it.
Yeah.
That might be one way to square it with St. Thomas. What I originally thought was that this is kind of just an outgrowth of the principle that law has to be ordered to the common good.
Yeah.
So if a whole community, well, you have to like consider certain principles. Like number one, there's wisdom in the whole community. That's why the authors address the opinion of what everybody thinks first, right? Because there's kind of a certain wisdom there. And number two, with regards to law, it has to be something that's ordered to the common good. And if the wisdom of the community is such that it understands that it's not ordered to the common good, then it's kind of a manifest way of showing how, in this case, you're failing to reach that principle, and therefore you don't really have a law.
Yeah. Well, so this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, just before you jumped in, because on that definition, it seems like just according to its definition, there can be no such thing as a bad law. Like by definition, if it's a law,
Right.
it has to be ordered to
Right.
the common good. And so it sort of seems to be implied in this line of argument then that there can be no such thing as the Pope's abuse of his authority. He's either doing something like that's in accord with the common good and you obey him, or it's just then it's ultra vires and you don't have there seems to be no option where it's imprudent what he's doing, but you have to obey nonetheless.
But it's not necessarily evil.
Yeah.
Is that,
Like it's
that's
so
what
yeah,
you mean?
like
Like
it's
he's not
like it's
telling
not,
you have to do something.
It's not like
sinful
commanding you that you have to
in
do
itself.
something sinful, but it seems to be. But this ordinance still seems to be against the common good of the church and to the manifest kind of detriment of souls. Or so goes the argument from some of these camps.
So I don't know if you guys saw, but Kwasniewski was actually on Arroyo's show this week.
Oh yeah, I didn't watch it, but
Father
I
Murray.
saw. Yeah,
He and Father
papal
Murray
posse.
were both. Yeah, he and Father Murray were there, and that was his kind of line of speaking when he was talking about the whole thing. He said, if this thing goes. I mean, and his show's a Thursday show, so it wasn't in response to this. It was in response to the possibility of this, because the rumors were out that something was coming again.
Well, that's what I'm kind of.
He was saying,
Kwasniewski is kind of the representative of that. That this is just beyond the pale. It's ultra vires. He has no authority to do this at all. He hasn't convinced me that that's the case. But the strongest argument.
So he wasn't speaking in those terms, though. On the show, he wasn't speaking in those. He never even said that the words ultra vires. What he said was that this is just immediately destructive to the common good of the church. That's how he was. That's how he was speaking.
And so this was how he phrased it today. He published something at 1 Peter 5 about, that authority arises from the need to promote and safeguard the common good, and the common good, therefore, limits the legitimate exercise of authority. And if the authority acts manifestly against the common good, the action, command, or ruling has no legal standing. Like that seems to be his argument. The only thing that I'm just trying to think my way through is then that seems to leave no room for the illegitimate exercise of his authority. or like an abuse of authority where you would still have to obey, even though it would be an imprudent decision or something like that.
You're not. It's there's not a line that you cross over from.
Mm-hmm.
It's a continuum, you know. And there are things that are there's some things that are going to be on one side of this continuum, where it's like, okay, that's clearly something that you can't follow, and then other things where it's probably not a good thing for him to do that, but he does have the authority to do it, and we have to kind of abide.
Yeah.
You know, like there's things in between, is what I'm saying. There's a lot of room between, you know, getting rid of one of the divine offices and like prime or whatever, and you know, abolishing the Latin Mass. That's like there's a lot of space between those two things.
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I think that's probably right. I don't know that Kwasniewski sees it that way, because I know he uses the example of the abolishing of prime all the time. Like, he just thinks that was illegitimate from the start.
One of the Liturgy of the Hours.
Yeah. There used to be 8, now there's 7. Oh, they froze up. Oh, there they go. That was good to see Jake, though. He might join back in.
His soon-to-be other half.
Yeah. That should be fun. I hope I get to see them if they're up here. That would be great.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'll have the opportunity, but that'd be nice if I could.
Have you heard it all from Joe or Julian?
I have not heard from Joe at all, even though today was this was his idea.
Was it really?
Yes, it really was his idea. Julian said,
"Wow,
what time is this? About half an hour ago. In about 5 more minutes, it'll be half an hour. That he could still be half an hour." So.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, doing the thing today this was Joe's idea, and now I've not heard from him
That's funny.
At all. I assume by now, we're supposed, 8 o'clock. It's like 9:50. I don't know. He's probably not showing up, but I'm still going to text him and bother him.
Oh yeah.
Although this was good, just because I haven't seen you in a bit, and we didn't get a chance to talk when I was out in Ohio.
Right.
So, although maybe next time I'm out there, I'll have to stay longer than 5 hours or something like that.
Right.
I did. Well, what let's see. I saw you first. Yeah. I drove from Baltimore to Ohio to where you are. And so that was about 8 hours. So I got in the night before. So the next morning I got up, I went over to the school and I had my visit, and then I drove from there 8 hours to Evans School in Illinois.
Yep, that's your whirlwind tour.
Yeah. And then I did the same thing. I got in late at night. The next morning I went to his school, and I got to talk to him in his office for a little bit afterwards because I had a shorter drive, but that was like 7 hours that's when I went to Grand Rapids.
Oh, wow.
And so then I saw Sacred Heart. There he is.
I don't know, we lost connection for a second.
Yeah, you're in an airport. It's to be expected.
We are boarding in a few minutes, though.
That's all right. It's good to see you.
Yeah. I wanted to
hop in.
I can't see you.
Yeah, let's see. Maybe if I cut it like that. There we go. Yeah. I've been waiting. I'm still waiting for Joe to show up. Doing this tonight was his idea.
Oh, really?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Late to his own meeting.
Alcibiades.
Yep.
No.
Julian thinks he's still a few minutes away, but I don't know. We'll see. He fell asleep yesterday. We were going to do this last night. He fell asleep.
Really? Come on, boys. Get it together.
I know, seriously.
I mean, I'm managing to come on, and I'm flying in an airport. I mean,
Seriously,
that's
In between flights.
that's dedication. I want to just pat my own back here.
Yeah, we gotta put that over Joe's head.
Damn good television, this right? Stephen? From the airport and everything.
That's right.
Oh, well, I tell you, I told Pete earlier, I said, it kind of made me proud. It also burned me up a little bit. that most of my students in logic, I gave them that problem and they caught it right away. The one we were discussing yesterday.
What was the thing?
On the tricky proposition. It ended up the problem was in proposition number 6. The obversion did not negate the whole predicate. It negated only part of the predicate.
Okay. Yeah, I've never even heard of obversion before. It's just
it's in the books, but
it's not in Aristotle's books. I know that.
no, it's not. But there was a lot of work done on like logic post. Not that Aristotle got anything wrong, but like developing further. Like there was a lot done in, especially like John of St. Thomas and the Cursus Logisticus or whatever. Handful of where I think a lot of this comes from. But anyways, it's in the textbooks.
Okay. Well,
no, but
no, I'm just frustrated because I consider myself a good logician, but
this doesn't mean you're not. That was one of the reasons I put it to the group, because if I knew if anybody could help me, you could help me, and you were able to help me. Not successfully, but you helped the solution along. I'm just pushing your buttons. But no, it did. When I gave that to my students and they were like, it's right here, I was kind of like, I'm really proud and I'm also like really furious at the same time.
Yeah. Well, at least they're learning.
Yeah, I think they actually did pretty well in that course, better than I would have thought for a 1 credit once a week class. That wasn't nearly
He's teaching at a new college called the Collegium.
And we opened in August.
They literally opened in August.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have just our freshman class. That's it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Where is it?
In Hagerstown.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are
What is
smack
it like?
dab in the middle of downtown.
Is it a liberal arts school or something? Yeah.
Liberal arts, it's more the way I think I've come to describe it, because we're not really a great books program either. Our curriculum follows the division of the arts and sciences laid down in Aristotle and cultivated through Catholic education. So they start the liberal arts their freshman year, then it takes them through philosophy and the natural sciences, and it culminates in theology. So
Nice.
Yeah.
We've been working on logic now. Next semester, thankfully, it's actually a full 3 credit course. But the one this semester was just a 1 credit. So I saw them once a week for 50 minutes. It was terrible.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Did you are you like writing the curriculum kind of stuff, or is it?
Yeah, I've actually. There was like a pre-programmed curriculum that we needed with the state of Maryland to get going. But yeah, I've been working on the revision since I got here, and it's almost ready to go.
Awesome.
Yeah. Actually, I was telling Pete earlier, so we're in conversation right now with the Sydney School of Mathematics in Australia. They're Aristotelian realists for mathematics. They're like the only ones. So we're talking with them about developing our mathematics curriculum. We've reached out to Anthony Rizzi and the Institute for Advanced Physics, which is kind of an Aristotelian Thomistic physics institution. So yeah, we're really trying to we're trying to integrate that idea just all the way through the curriculum.
Yeah, that does sound pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So yeah, I think it's just true, and that's what I want to impress upon our students. The Thomistic Institute had a YouTube video about this a few days ago or something like that. But yeah, the Aristotle's metaphysics it's physicists talk about the theory of everything.
Oh,
it's Aristotle's metaphysics. That's the theory of everything. And if that's true, then you should be able to develop an entire curriculum kind of derived from that, based around that, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
All right, Washington, D.C.
Are y'all having like full flights and stuff?
We're still waiting for working.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
said full flights.
This
They
flight's
can't
not
come
full.
over here because they're waiting for other flights.
Our
and
other
it's
one
for another plane to come in.
Pretty full.
So it's a big domino effect.
Yeah, I haven't
So
been
we'll
on
get you
a
out as
not
soon as we
full
can.
flight.
Oh,
But the last
dear.
Sitting there
three
waiting
flights
until our
I've been
flight
on,
attendants take
I
them
mean,
over
packed,
here. Okay?
Oh,
jam
boy.
Thank you.
Please come. Don't leave us here forever. Come to us.
Would they
No.
would they just make an announcement about something? Or
They
y'all
just
delayed
said,
for it?
we're just ready, but we're waiting on the flight attendants to come. So we'll just
Oh my
leave
God.
whenever we can, but they
It's
still have to
those
come.
see, they're at the bar right now. That's where they are.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. Not a good announcement to hear.
Oh, that's funny. So, yeah, I'm curious just to, I don't know, bring the topic back a little bit. The whole theory of
Okay.
reception thing.
Should I go find a drink?
Yeah, go find a drink.
Should I?
Yeah. The whole theory of reception, I wonder how kind of universal it needs to be.
What do you want?
I don't want anything.
It's like Father Z made the point in his blog about that point. Is like, so clearly, like even something like the Novus Ordo has not been universally received.
You're not a thing again.
Insofar, you've got the Society of St. Pius X, you've got the Fraternity, the Institute of Christ the King, you've got Clear Creek Monastery, all these other, so like does universal have to mean universal, or is it just, like most?
Right. Well, right. And of course, it would sort of come back to bite us if we upheld it, but then there were some law in favor of tradition, and most people ignored it, and we'd say, hey, wait, you can't just ignore that. You have to
Right.
say, well, we ignored it, and therefore we can continue to ignore it.
Well, that's almost exactly what, like, it really is. This is exactly what these guys did, let's say, during, like, Benedict's pontificate and all the stuff with the liturgy he was trying to promote, trying to get them to do, and everybody was just like, nah.
Right. Yeah, because the theory doesn't tell you why you're allowed to ignore it in the first place. It just says ex post facto if they have ignored it.
Maybe if you dug into it a little bit, like there might be like people that have actually written on it. Like if you were to maybe dive into that topic a little bit, you could maybe find whatever the principle of the reason is why that's permitted to. But it seems to be like Jake pointed out, and Kwasniewski pointed out, it just seems to hinge on the idea then that this law is made for the sake of the common good of the community that it's supposed to govern. And if that community then, which does have kind of a natural authority over itself, even Thomas points that out, right? Like they have, like the care of the whole first belongs to everybody that's a part of the whole. If a significant number or a significant portion of that whole recognizes then that this law isn't for our good, there does seem to be a problem there.
Right.
And I really don't know if the fact that that's a political theory and that the Holy Father has a sort of a spiritual authority, if that makes any difference. I don't know that it would, but I don't know that it wouldn't either. Jake, what are you teaching right now? Or what were you teaching?
The same classes I had last year, which were astronomy, 2 Latins for junior and senior, and humane letters.
I might have to talk to you later about how you teach astronomy. I've been kind of thinking about getting into that just a little bit. I want to get maybe a halfway telescope, only because I don't know if you've been in or out of the loop. I've been getting into it with one of the, I don't know. I don't want to describe who this is, but a very, very committed geocentrist.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about.
Calamus University.
Yeah, that. And but I will say, at the very, whatever else it's done, it's kind of sparked this bit of an interest in me. Like I'd like to get a halfway decent telescope myself. I was looking at some of the chart, like the for the phases of Venus that I've never seen, and it's actually quite bright in the sky right now. And it's like something. It's like I would like to just start looking at some of this stuff, myself. For
Venus is super visible right now.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
It's
not
really
right now.
bright.
Right now, it's the evening star right now, and it's
Yeah.
very, very visible.
And over the next, like this month and in January, Venus, Jupiter, and one other. Because I was
Saturn.
looking at and it's like these are all going to be in the evening, in the morning. They're going to be like super visible, super bright. It's like this would be fun. I think to get into this a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, however,
it's fun to
so
teach.
like so I'm actually I might have to get with you about that, about like how you teach that, because I don't.
I mean,
even
it is
know how you
proportioned
teach
to high schoolers. Keep that in mind. But
I,
yeah,
I don't even know where you would start. How do you teach what?
it's
Yeah.
funny because they do have a textbook, and the way I describe it is it's like what is that summary website for books?
Spark Notes.
Spark Notes, yeah. It's like that. It's like Ptolemy, Spark Notes of Ptolemy, without
dummies.
references though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
It's like the same kind of observations and experiments that you do that Ptolemy would have done in his own day for determining certain things about the order of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing, the kids are doing themselves. So
Nice.
yeah, it's good. I really like that class. It's a lot of fun.
Nice.
I imagine it would be, and yeah, I've just kind of been like, this would be interesting to get into. I've been trying to get back into mathematics a little bit. This semester, I've been reading the De Institutione Arithmetica from Boethius.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of the things I was like, you've got Euclid. It's one of the best mathematics textbooks for demonstration from principle to conclusion. Like, it teaches you geometry. What got me searching was I was like, I don't think there are at least none that I know of. Like, where are the arithmetic or algebraic books like that? Where's Euclid for algebra? That could teach me that, like, here are the definitions, and then here are the demonstrations. Like, here's the science, laid out for you. And I don't know if any of the medieval like mathematics textbooks were like that, or
well,
algebra is its own problem. The calculative.
Yeah.
Is it even a science? Does it respect the nature of quantity, of continuous versus
right?
discrete, or is it this monstrosity? That...
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so I don't know. Can you explain that to me? Like, I kind of get what you're saying, but I want to.
The sort of beginning point of algebra that you sort of equate lines and numbers. So you start multiplying lines together and not getting like a square, but you just get a longer line. So you're treating it as if a line has a certain discrete quantity of length, and it's sort of like what Descartes did, is like mishmashing the two, like taking things that are true of numbers and doing those operations with lines and vice versa, and sort of assuming that is valid, and getting useful and maybe true, you could say, results out of it. But I don't know that anyone has been able to explain how that's actually, if that's true, or how that works. It's kind of like, well, we just do it now, and that's how math is.
That's interesting. Isn't something, I haven't made it that far into Euclid, but didn't I read somewhere that, like, by, I don't know, like towards the really, really very end, like books 13, and so that he isn't that there's something approximating algebra there, or did I misread something? I might have misread something.
Book 13. It's about three-dimensional figures.
Okay.
Euclid does have books about numbers, and he uses truths that he finds out in talking about magnitudes.
Oh,
There he is.
What's up?
Julian.
Are you in an airport too?
Yeah, dude. What airport are you in?
Not
We're,
me.
we're in Chicago.
Oh, okay. I'm in
There's a
Denver.
fiance, by the way.
Hey, fiance.
Yes, this is still
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. We're not boarding
Damn,
yet.
dude,
We're still
congrats.
waiting for flight attendant.
Dude, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Thanks, bro.
Julian's not on Signal, or you don't have the updated
Oh,
version.
yeah.
You
Oh, yeah.
have to- so he
Dude.
hasn't heard yet. Yep, he's frozen up too. Yeah, y'all got that airport internet connection. But yeah, I've been
Well,
trying to. Oh, go ahead.
I was just wondering if have I been freezing up a lot?
No, actually, you guys have been good. You dropped out that one time,
Yeah.
but no, otherwise it's been pretty good. But yeah, no, I've just been trying to get back into math. But one, mathematics, just because I've always sucked at mathematics. My education in math was just awful. It was just awful. That's why I don't know anything. I can't do math. I can't even do basic algebra. I pass my time for fun. I've been watching even some YouTube videos about how to solve these cool little problems, and that's been fun. I've been watching that, but it's like, yeah, I don't know anything about this. And it's just, it's becoming more and more clear to me, even as I get through like a liberal arts program like this. I'm designing this curriculum, and it's like, man, this is the kind of thing I should have gone through. This is the kind of education I should have had. And now is as good a time of any. I can start doing some of this on my own, but I would need I need good teachers, right? I need good stuff, and that's why I was maybe looking if there were like some of the medieval math textbooks or anything for like the
Dude.
arithmetic, algebraic, calculus. I don't even want to think about calculus, but
I mean, that you just need to read Newton for, really.
yeah.
Newton and Descartes. But what I was going to say was you should listen to Mike Agros's lecture on what is geometry, because he talks about what constitutes a science and what constitutes mathematical science specifically. And and towards the end of the lecture, he gets into how certain mathematical sciences aren't actually sciences in a real sense.
He has a book that's called Introduction to Geometry and Arithmetic.
No, it's called What is Geometry? The lecture.
Yeah, but I searched, what is geometry? The first thing that popped up was this book by him. I was just curious if that was, but yeah, this might be.
I mean,
this might
that'll
be,
probably be worthwhile as well.
There's one, Mathematics and Liberal Learning, the opening lecture for the second academic year of Thomas Aquinas College, New England.
Also good.
All right, I'll look for it. Maybe if you've got maybe send it to me, because Google searching Michael Agros, what is geometry, isn't popping anything.
It's an older lecture from TAC. It was before he actually started teaching there, I think. So I'm not sure they have an Internet Archive version, but I've got it, so I can probably send it to you
whenever you go.
Yeah. So Julian, long time, dude.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
What was that?
I said, holy crap, where you been?
Yeah. Well, I've just been in Colorado teaching high school Latin at a Chesterton Academy.
Sick, dude. Sick.
Yeah.
Where in Colorado?
Windsor, Colorado. It's so north of Denver, about an hour north of Denver, and there's a lot of, because this is our only second year of existence, so there's a lot of like discussions and figuring out what a classical education is supposed to look like, and at first they weren't really the faculty wasn't really having much of a say in that, but so as the lowly Latin professor or lowly Latin teacher, I wasn't really there wasn't really much for me to do about that, but it looks like now, at least starting next semester, faculty is going to get let into, well, I'll hold my tongue about some things, but faculty is going to get a little bit more of a say with that kind of thing.
Okay. You know what you're talking about?
And
That's a
so
question.
I'm looking forward to you know, giving my input, and but
Are
on the
you gonna
whole,
say the right things?
Jake, I'm gonna say the things that I'm gonna say, and in my mind, they're correct.
Okay.
And
Already starting off on the wrong foot. Good.
Every
I
time.
would say what you would say,
Cool.
Jake.
Oh, of course. Yeah, right.
That's the correct
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. I mean, look at my tag here, Jake.
I
Right, it's a
know.
little brother, right?
I
Meaning that my mind has been deeply, deeply formed by you. Mostly by means of humiliation, but that's just the role of a little brother.
Hey
you know?
Phil, can I host we need to see that video of Julian making drinks again. Can I?
I think
Oh my
you
God.
should be able to share your screen, and
No,
I should be able to.
just
I should be able to post that up. Yeah. We got to make that public at some point. I got it.
Oh my. Phil, you would encourage him.
Well,
You
you know
would.
me. People teach however
He's
they
a big
have to.
he's a big brother. So
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I got to. Speaking of handles, real quick, I do have to say, Pete, Joe would be very disappointed that your handle isn't Pete the Destroyer. Like, Joe would be very disappointed. It's a good thing he's not here.
I guess so.
Peter,
Wait,
what?
I
Pete the
prefer to
Destroyer.
let my
Pete the Destroyer.
actions rather than my words,
You know how Pete just hangs out there in silence, and we just talk, and then he just sneaks in and like slits your throat like a ninja, and then retreats back into the shadows.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
We're just talking about something, and then Pete just jumps in. He's like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and here's why." And then he backs out, and like that was
Return to sip of Manhattan.
Oh, man.
Well,
Well, what have you guys been talking about?
how everything is worse than it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, that's not new.
Well, we started off. We were talking about evolution first, Pete and I, and then but more recently, we've been talking about the new restrictions on the Latin Mass and the theory of law, because we've been talking about resistance.
Yeah.
And to what extent is it lawful, and blah blah blah. So that's what we've been talking about more recently.
Yeah.
I want to hear what the fraternity in Phoenix preaches on this Sunday's Mass.
Well, especially now.
Yeah.
That, this instruction basically prohibits. It doesn't prohibit, but they definitely can't ordain according to the old rite anymore.
No.
Or confirmation, and that's sort of their thing. This is so. I don't know if this is. I know the intention is to stop them from ordaining new priests, but.
So yeah, I remember when the weekend after the first one, TC went out.
Mm-hmm.
Our pastor was like, "We're gonna keep doing what we're doing according to our constitutions. That's what's gonna happen."
Yeah.
And I felt like a general was leading us. It's like, all right, let's do this. Let's freaking go. And I just want to hear what he has to say about this now. Because this is big time line in the sand sort of act.
I'm curious what their institutional response is going to be. Because they published a letter after TC that was kind of, I don't think it really said anything, but now that it's like you can't have ordinations or anything in the old pontificale, so anything that the bishop would do can't be done anymore. Now I'm curious to see what they'll say about that.
Yeah.
what of the what have the Norbertines? What's their reaction to any of these? Do you know?
Father Sebastian said that they were unaffected by the whole thing.
Really? Nice.
Yeah,
That's great.
Well, they do the
Yeah.
Novus Ordo too, don't they?
they do, but I mean, it's basically like they have public things which are Novus Ordo, but I asked Father, he's like, hey, but pretty much everything that can be TLM, they do. Like every priest has his private mass TLM, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, what I'm curious about now, so like
Um,
you've got the St. Michael's, you've got Clear Creek, all of those houses have now been put under the Congregation for Religious Life, which is
Right.
just a god awful institution.
Right.
Well, I don't know what's going to happen to them in the long run, but
Yeah.
because like so maybe it doesn't affect them now, but it will. I can't
Right.
imagine it being untouched for that much longer.
Right.
If they're still
But
that intent on going down this path, I don't know.
But they weren't originally Ecclesia Dei communities, right?
Not Clear Creek and St. Michael's, I don't think.
No. They just had the traditional stuff there for a while.
Yeah, but I think
But they weren't.
they still all fall under the Congregation
Oh, yeah,
for Religious
right.
and Apostolic
Right,
that
right.
oversees all those communities, whether they were Ecclesia Dei went under what's now the Congregation for Divine Worship. These other like Clear Creek and St. Michael's are now shuffled under Congregation for Religious.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that it's not touched by now, but I don't know how long that'll stay that way. I just don't get it. Like these are the trope is well worn by now, but it's like, if you had a CEO that was going after its fastest growing and most profitable wing of the business and it's like, I'm going to shut this down. The board of directors, like that guy would be out, before you could blink. So
Right. Yeah.
like this is where your baptisms are happening. This is where your marriages are happening. This is where your money is and your fundraising. This is where the people that are still going to mass, like this is, between the traditional wing and the charismatic wing of the church, that's where all of your faithful Catholics are.
Yeah.
They're not in your Novus Ordo parishes.
Right. Yep.
Don't understand. So Julian, you're flying home then, I guess? That's where you are?
Yeah, I am.
Nice.
I probably don't have a ton of time left until I have to start boarding, but I wanted to at least sneak in
Yeah, we're happy to see
one of the topics that I brought up to you, Phil, at the end of last time.
Mm-hmm.
Namely, I wanted to get clearer on the idea of leisure, and just kind of, get like a more precise definition of it. Because right now I've just been working on the working with the ideas that I've gotten from when I learned about it in undergrad, when I first read the ethics. But I haven't really thought about it a whole ton again until now, because I've been meeting a lot of people who seem to think they know what leisure is, and then really sort of, but they really don't, and they don't know that they don't know. So when I was taught in book 10 of the ethics in undergrad, I remember my professor making a big deal about there being a big difference between leisure and recreation, and a lot of people want to interpret Aristotle as talking about recreation rather than leisure, in the sense of like recreation is like when you're taking a break from your work. You're doing something literally to like recreate yourself so that you can get back to work. And in that sense, it seems like that is pretty far removed from what Aristotle's trying to talk about, because he's he seems to be talking about more of something like uh, um, setting time aside to, you know, direct your mind to the highest things. Um, but I'm still, and so yeah. But I don't know. I've just been meeting a lot of Catholics who've read like Joseph Pieper, who admittedly I haven't, uh, but then, you know, when I hear them start talking about leisure, it sounds like what they mean is recreation, and then they're sort of encouraging people just to take breaks from their work, um, and as if like that's like a you know that's a huge like Catholic theme that people need to start doing. Um, and then, but then when it comes to like, you know, um, truly contemplative work, like say, I don't know, reading Aristotle or reading St. Thomas, uh, they talk about leisure as if it's like that's leisure is the time that you set aside away from doing those things, from that contemplative work, and that, I don't know, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And I've been wondering what you guys would have to say about that.
Yeah, it seems like I mean, recreation is still ordered to some other kind of work, but
Right? Yeah.
at least the way that certainly I think Pieper or Aristotle would understand it is that you work in order to have leisure.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know, and I would say leisure, just offhand, leisure is something like right absence of necessity of doing servile work, right? Servile work in itself. So leisure is any activity that does have its end in itself, or that is an activity of leisure, such as contemplation is just a perfect activity in itself. It's not servile. It's not leisure. It's not a necessary but bad in some way work that you do for some other gain outside itself. At least, yeah, that's what it seems to me to be.
I'm sorry, Pete. I
Yeah.
just missed when you were you saying that was like from Pieper, or you were thinking about that in terms of
Well, I
like,
mentioned Pieper. I think he's good on leisure. I mean, I've read his book, but I can't remember it very clearly. But um, so I may be gathering ideas from him or from elsewhere or whatever.
mhm.
Um, but I do have the general idea that you have servile work and then you have leisure. And leisure is not devoid of activity. However, it is devoid of the kind of, like working for money, basically, that kind of thing, or working to sustain yourself.
Yeah.
Anything you would do in leisure is worthy for its own sake.
Does
Yeah.
Thomas ever use the term like leisure? I know there's a question about like recreation and that you need to take time to like play games and stuff, but it was exactly like Julian was talking about, so that you can, you play some soccer or some football, whatever you, or go to the gym. You take some time to to recreate and recreate yourself so that you go back to work, with a fresh mind, with a fresh body.
I
I don't
think
know
he
if
just
he.
uses rest.
Okay. Well, there is the question on like, is it lawful to play games or something like that, whatever it was, right? And
I mean rest as in the fulfillment of motion. Um, that's what that's the term that he uses to. That would be akin to leisure.
okay.
When he talks about this sort of thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's obvious that leisure, and I think in our translation of Aristotle, it's play as opposed to recreation. But he makes an explicit order. He says play is order to work, and work is order to rest or leisure. Uh,
That's interesting.
so it's they're not the same thing. And
Yeah.
uh, um, Like just the very fact that you have the priority of order there is a sign that they're not the same thing. And um, one of the major things to realize about that sort of thing is that a lot of stuff goes on in leisure or rest,
Yeah.
which is not exactly what comes to mind when you hear the term.
Right.
Uh, but you're doing a lot. Like it's the most fulfilling activity, isn't it? So
Yeah.
that's not at all what people think, but it has to be the thing that is the condition for human flourishing, the human fulfillment, and none of the things that it sounds like the people you're talking about, Julian, would mention would qualify for that sort of activity, right? Like soccer is not that.
Right.
Playing guitar is not that thing either. It's way different than that.
Yeah.
If those things were the real condition for human fulfillment, then it would be way easier to be happy, right? And and happiness is a pretty difficult thing to achieve.
Right. Fiance wants to weigh in.
He was listening in earlier.
Oh, okay.
I heard leisure.
Yeah.
Jake, to your point, the point you just made, actually this guy I was just arguing with, the same guy, but who thought that God has emotions, but on the principle that I think he entirely misunderstood that concept of act, but to your point about how even like act or contemplating is a state of rest,
Mm-hmm.
but he couldn't equate that rest was also a state of doing, it was a state of being,
right.
And so I think, when you are like contemplating, that's an activity, but it's also then it's a state of rest.
Right.
But it is a state of doing. And it's not, I think, Pete, like you were saying, it's not ordered to the sake of anything further. Like you contemplate the truth for the sake of contemplating the truth. I go out, like Jake, we used to play racquetball for the sake of going back to work with a, fresh mind, fresh body, whatever.
Yeah. Well, the next sort of follow-up question I have for this is whether you can do, I guess, really anything in a leisurely way, right? So, like, could you play racquetball while contemplating or something, right? And then in that case, what are you doing?
He muted us because you're talking.
We can hear y'all.
Because then in that case, like, are you still? It seems like part of what you're doing is for its own sake, but then part of it isn't. And then so I don't. That's always been sort of the when I've brought up this topic to people, that's like always the immediate objection.
It seems to arise from our opposite nature of soul and body, and Aristotle talks about how what we're trying to do is almost beyond our nature. And even when you're contemplating, you still have to be breathing and maybe drinking some water, maybe eating, all these things that are sort of servile if you think of them as they're just things you do to sustain life.
Yeah.
And you have to do them concurrently with, your best activities. So you might say that maybe we never have perfect leisure. It's never the case that, you're solely doing, only the highest thing or only.
Yeah, well, not in this life.
Right, not in this life. Right.
Jake, what did you think about that point? Like playing racquetball for its own. It does seem like part of you're just playing for the sake of the game because it's fun, but part of you we're playing for its recreational purpose, right? Because everything that it did for us.
It's not it's not are you doing it for its own sake? The question is it the sort of thing done for its own sake? That's the question. And racquetball isn't the sort of thing done for its own sake. because there are things after. Well, it doesn't have that condition of the end of man, as in being wholly satisfying, right?
Yeah.
After I play racquetball, I don't think, well, I'm good as a human. Like, that's pretty much it. Like,
Well, it
no,
depends on what kind of game you had. Like,
um,
Well, one of you thinks that. The other.
I mean, you can kind of fool yourself into thinking, I'm
Yeah.
doing this simply for its own sake.
Well, what's the point of it then? What are they saying?
But they're wrong. I mean, they're wrong because of the point that I just made.
But then what is the point of racquetball?
It's to have fun, to like get your mind off of things, to exercise. There are many things that a person many motivations a person could have. But that's actually a point that Father Sebastian kind of clearly makes. It's like what a person's motivations are have to be in line with what a thing's end is. Like, those aren't the same thing, right? Like, and a clear example is this, right? The end of medicine is health, but a lot of people are motivated for medicine with money, right? So, like, money and health aren't the same thing. So, like, there's an obvious example of the motivation not lining up with the end.
Yeah.
But you might be
actually-
motivated for nothing.
Then what's the point? What's supposed to be the point of, like, say, like, professional athletes that are gonna go to the Olympics?
Money.
Just,
Money and fame and glory.
is that all?
I think so.
It seems like there has to be more than that.
It could
National
be ordered
glory,
to
honor.
a higher end, the good of one's country. If you're going to the
Yeah,
Olympics or something like
patriotism.
that, people
I
could
mean,
make money and then give back to their community or their favorite charity, or I don't know, whatever. Some athletes do that.
Yeah.
But
Not
that's
all,
not
but-
like the whole reason why they do that their whole life, is it? Or what is?
I think so. I think a lot of
Depends. It's just for money.
Well, this is I actually somewhat tangential to this. I was thinking about this recently. So, like we were talking about, like recreation seems to be an essential part of human material life, right? We need to take a break from stuff, and
Yeah.
so it actually seems
Fun
though,
is
that,
necessary.
yeah, but like according to that, then there've been whole industries that have arisen to help us have fun. Like, this is why then you have people that make movies so that in our free time we can take a break from work and I can go see the new Spider-Man movie, whatever. There's a whole industry that exists for that purpose. Or for me to watch a football game, there exists a whole industry of just professional athletes who are there so that when I want to take a break from work, there they are. I can watch football game or basketball game or whatever, whether it's comic books or Nintendo game, any form of like recreational entertainment. There are whole industries that have evolved for the sake of facilitating our recreation.
I guess
And
the
kind of touches then on the point. Well, what's their point? I don't know. Like it kind of seems like it in some respect it serves a necessary human need.
I guess what I was getting
Maybe it
at
doesn't.
was more of like the idea of whether you can contemplate while recreating.
Say that again,
And-
Julian.
How you can
It's-
contemplate while recreating.
Oh,
Yeah, right. Because I know another example that I heard was that if you're gardening, say, you can sort of, I don't know, you can think about the order that gardening, that your act of gardening has towards the good of things. I don't know, and ultimately to God in some way or another, and that are you? Is it? Is that sort of a? I guess that kind of goes back to what Pete was saying, that it seems like we're always doing that to some extent, in the sense that even when we're trying to contemplate solely, that we can't, at least in this life, solely contemplate it. We're always still doing some.
well, I
other-
mean, it's obvious that some activities lend themselves more readily to let's just say multitasking more than others, right? Like you can you can do dishes and listen to a audiobook, right? You can't really do that if you're in the middle of teaching a Latin class, right? You can't listen to an audiobook doing it. So my take on that sort of thing, can you contemplate while gardening? Yeah, but only because of how limited thought, how limited the thinking of gardening actually takes after a certain point, right? You might have to focus on.
Or couldn't you?
You might have to focus on, you know, getting started. Your mind and energy might be very invested in the projects when you get started. But once you're kind of self sufficient and you have a full thing, you have a full backyard, and you're just basically watering and pruning and things like that, then it's easy to kind of think about other things while you work, right? That's my take on that sort of idea. But yeah, can you contemplate while gardening? Yeah, probably, maybe. But that's because you're not expending a lot of mental power when you garden, and therefore you can do other things. But you can't really. The things that take a lot of mental energy and mental attention.
You can't do metaphysics while playing racquetball. Right?
Yeah, you can't be in an orchestra and contemplate. You just can't do that because it takes too much focus. You have to think about something you have to think too hardly about something else. While with gardening you don't, right? The sun's doing a lot of the work. So.
And it's actually interesting that it's sometimes good to have something that slightly occupies your body, because that can be a source of distraction. Otherwise, if you're just sitting completely still trying to think, it can be difficult. But if you have some little thing to do, walking around, then it sort of frees your mind, because determined already. It's kind of like driving. Sometimes I think a lot while driving, just because my body's just doing what it does. I know where I'm going. My mind is just completely free.
Yeah.
You can't zone out too much when you're driving, though, because then
Right.
Yeah.
But
all right. So I'll kind of cut to the heart of what I'm getting at here. Would it be good then to encourage students, or to like, how do I put this in a discreet way?
The opera.
Should we
Are we
sort
muted?
of limit the kind of work that we require of our students for the sake of leisure? And is that, because to me that sort of, and whatever answers you guys have got, you've got to do it quick here, because I think I have to board pretty soon here.
Okay.
Are you talking about homework, like academic work, or like
academic work? Yeah.
Is this but is the point of the question like you should limit homework so that they can play soccer more? Or whatever?
Well, I think the hope would be that we limit homework so that they can contemplate.
You need
more.
you can only contemplate. The contemplation is the summit, and it's like saying, should we cut out climbing so they can sit and enjoy the summit more? It's like you study so that you can reach the place where you can contemplate. If your study is helping that, then absolutely cut it out. But
it's the same principle that short-minded athletes think. Like, why do we have to practice? Can we just play the games? Those are the things.
Right.
That's what it's. Well, you could, but you wouldn't be able to do it very well.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much not even playing.
Waiting for Tampa on play 28. We're going to Houston on play 28-13. That has been moved to the other concourse, A15. A15 for Houston.
Sorry.
And inbounds
No, it's
Tampa.
all right.
Thank you.
Somebody's going to Houston.
Yeah. No, I mean, and a person who doesn't want to do the work of study
Washington, D.C., you're still here.
so that they can contemplate.
Yeah.
Don't leave us.
DC is still at U20.
Is
Yeah, it
is
seems like
an
it's the other
athlete
way
who doesn't
around.
practice.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, I think I gotta bounce here, but thanks for having me, guys.
Dude, thanks for stopping in. Thanks for dropping in. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to
Yeah,
see you guys
likewise,
too.
man.
And I look forward to doing this again. Hopefully, I can
Hey.
experience it more frequently.
Yeah, we'll try and get this to be more regular after the new year. I don't imagine next week is Christmas Eve. The week after that, New Year's Eve, New Year's. So it'll probably be
It's not charging.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be.
Not
I'd be
charging.
all right open for like the first week of the new year, but we'll see what you
Just-
guys are
oh,
up
it
to.
doesn't
We'll
work?
already be back in
Yeah.
school.
Try those ones.
We start January.
Yeah, so
3rd.
will I.
Try the ones
Yeah.
with the lights on.
But
So-
and I wouldn't be opposed to doing it like sometime during the week too, at least for the next 2 weeks, because I'll be on break. But
I wouldn't be opposed to it either. We just have to see what everybody's work schedule and stuff
Right,
works
right.
out.
I
Like,
think I gotta bounce too, guys.
All right,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, dude. Jake, it was
All right.
great to see you.
Yeah. Good
I'll
talk,
send you.
guys.
I'll keep sending you guys the link whenever we do this.
Yeah,
Just so
please
that-
do. I mean, I'm
wanna drop
glad
in.
that you did, because I wouldn't have popped on unless you mentioned it. So
Yeah. Just happy to see
but
you
like
guys.
I mean, like I said before in our thing,
Well, all right.
Yeah,
All right,
just like he said, guys.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys later.
All right, dude. Have a good flight.
Thanks, man. See you later.
Yeah. Well,
All right,
first and last.
First, that dude, you hung in there like a champ all the way through the end.
Everyone but Joe.
All right. Now we've really got to drop it. You got to help me in the group chat. We got to roast him for doing this. This was his idea. Because we were supposed to do this last night, and he didn't show up last night. And then he's like, "All right, I'm open to doing." He's like, "I'm open to doing tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow." So here we are. You hopped in, Jake and Julian hopped in from the airport. Come on, there is no excuse.
There is no excuse.
No excuse.
He better have been like under general anesthesia or something.
That's right. Oh my goodness.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna let you go though. Thanks for stopping in. Yeah, and the same thing. I'll send you the link anytime we do this. If we do it during the break, which, like I said, I'm not opposed to, since we'll be off. Whatever. I know you'll be with family. You have like Christmas plans? Are y'all going to see family? Somebody's family?
Yeah, we're going to Anna Marie's family in Houston.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So if you're available at any time, or to hop in, or even like to hop in for a few minutes, or just whatever. So.
Absolutely.
All right, dude. It's nice to see you then. All
Nice to
right.
see you.
Take care.